This week's episode of Aussie Tech Heads is brought to you by Start New Company. Register your company immediately today with ASIC. ABN, TFN, GST registration is also available directly from the portal. Also set up your family trust and self-managed superannuation fund and more. All at startnewcompany.com.au. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/startnewco and keep an eye out for our regular specials. Start your new company now within 10 minutes of lodgement. All legal company documentation provided after registration. startnewcompany.com.au. And also brought to you by athwebhosting.com.au. All our servers are operating on SSD drives, immediate activation, SSL certificates, Aussie support, domain registration, and more. Easy install WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and 300 other one-click installations. Generous space and bandwidth, auto backups, WordPress help and maintenance plans are also available on Contact. If your web page is important for your business or your life, contact us today. Aussie support, secure services, athwebhosting.com.au. And now for the show.
Welcome to episode 715 of the Aussie Tech Heads, recorded on the 4th of March 2021. I'm your host, Jason Oakley, and this is my co-host, Will Tompkinson. Hey, Will.
Good evening.
How are things up there? Nice and cool?
It's actually 26. It's somewhat sane at the moment.
What? What the what?
Much better than it has been. It's just been stupid weird. I don't think we've had a day below, I don't know, 35, 36 in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Well, we've had like rain on and off all the time. I've been having trouble getting my lawn mowed. Finally got the front lawn done today. Got a new gardener dude, and he'll do the back lawn soon, but he has to bring in his heavy-duty mower because it just gets so thick out there.
Well,
All the front is just spindly stuff that you can just zoom over with like a handmower if you're with that incline, but the one out the back, you need your 4-stroke heavy-duty.
well, that's part of the problem with that too. The rains. It's been raining at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then of course that means the grass is wet over morning, and then it gets to about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it rains again. So, so the lawn's growing quite substantially. So yeah, that's a problem. But other than that, it hasn't been too bad. Been plodding along, and that's all you can do really.
Yep.
In this climate.
I did a bit of shopping. I bought this big cardboard box.
Oh, cool! I love buying cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
And then what I've discovered too, when you buy cardboard boxes, quite often there's free stuff inside.
Oh man!
You probably should have looked.
I wonder what I'll get. I got a whole great big piece of foam about this big. Got a BenQ Ultra HD 4K 32-inch monitor and loving it. It's huge, takes up all this space on the desk. And I made one mistake though, because I thought when I got it, I'll use DisplayPort since it seems to be the thing to do these days for your video and audio out. And so I thought, I found one. They only got 8K cables. You can't buy a 4K at the shop. I got mine from PLE in Melbourne. And so I thought, actually, I better have a check because sometimes they put a cable inside and I don't want to buy an extra one. And so I had a look all over the web, couldn't find anywhere that says what's the contents of the box besides the monitor. So I was like, I guess I'll just buy it. So I bought it, but instead of buying a 2-meter cable, which I'd originally intended to buy, I clicked on 1 meter. So it meant that because my monitor's on the right-hand side, my computer was over there. Now I had to move the computer over here so the cable couldn't reach the monitor because it just wasn't going to get there.
Yeah, they
So
don't include much these days. They don't even.
it came with a USB-C to USB-C cable and USB a display port on your graphics card. No, a mini display port, I think it is, on the graphics card and plug into the monitor's display port. So I think the cable's really just Mac.
Well, DisplayPort's become a sort of a ambiguous sort of cable these days. Like it started off as Mac, but it's like SCSI started off as Mac, and
I thought I would have got HDMI or DisplayPort to DisplayPort cable come with it, but neither of those, and those are the only ones that I could use.
FireWire is another Mac, and 1394 is the pros call it. And that's funny. I did it again the other day. I was talking about it, and I couldn't think of FireWire. I could only think of 1394. Like, but yeah,
Easy.
it's I've bought for work. I think I've bought 4 monitors in the last 12 months for work, and none of those they haven't even had VGA cables with them. They've had nothing.
Oh, okay.
So
That's a bit rotten.
Yeah, at least you got something.
Yeah. But it all worked out in the end, and Minecraft looks really spiffy in 4K, and I started looking into some Java development, and once you get your IDE and you've got your project structure down, the project explorer down this side showing you all the files and folders, and over here is all the functions and your variables and stuff, and then down the bottom is your build thing, and in the end you end up with a little box about this big that you can type your text into, and I'm like scrolling back and forward using the scroll bars because I couldn't fit everything in. So now I've got a full 1080p in the middle that's got the code where I'm typing, and all the other stuff is around the edges. So there's a lot more space now.
Yeah, it's one thing. It's funny. Years ago, we had like a 14-inch CRT, and that was great because we'd upgraded from our 12-inch, VGA, and then they had like 15-inch LCDs was all the rage.
Remember those 21-inch CRTs, and you had to try and carry it around?
I had one.
Desktop support for companies.
Bloody
They're like,
heavy
can you
things,
take
yeah.
that CRT and put it over on this desk? I'm like, are you kidding me?
That was stupid.
We can put it on that other desk.
Yeah. And that was, you got to remember too, because it's a square profile, so it's a completely different, like a 24-inch monitor is only, that big because it's a narrow profile. But when you're talking a 21-inch square monitor, it's that big.
Yeah.
Like, they're huge. It's like lugging a TV around.
So any wonder that I ended up getting a hernia at like 27.
And then you go from that, and then you went to like a 15-inch LCD, and you're like, hey, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then like 7-inch LCDs were everywhere for 4 or 5 years. That was like it. 7-inch LCDs were the standard. And then you realised you could run 2 of those, and that was the best thing in the world. And then you had 117 and 115 because that's all you could afford because 15s were cheaper. And then you discovered
I
you
gave
could
away
run...
2 15-inch CRTs because I couldn't sell them for $5 on eBay.
Yeah. And then sort of went to 2 monitors. Now we're at like 24s are like the standard that everybody uses, and most people have 2 of those now, or they have their laptop on one and then 24 as their second screen, and I'm now I've got 4 24s in front of me, and I don't have enough screen real estate. So
I got 4 24s in the 132-inch monitor. So
really, a 32 inches probably, it probably nearly is. So it'd be at least probably nearly 3 24s anyway, in terms of real estate size.
And I've got the 24-turn portrait mode on this side, and I wanted to put the other one that I did have that was 24 on the right-hand side, and I found the base. I found the base.
Base.
How low can you go? And I've got the monitor, but do you think I can find the stem that connects the 2 together? I pulled the whole house apart 3 times in the last couple of days, and I can't find it. So I'm going to have to get another Visa mount stand from like Officeworks or something and just whack it over there.
You know what my Visa mount consists of? 2 pieces of 2x4 and a couple of long screws.
It does the trick.
The way my table's set up, they're right on the back at the far side of the table so that like it's just at arm's reach. And so yeah, off the back of the table, I've literally just got two 2x4s at the back of the table, and I just put the screws through into the back of the monitor like you normally would. So it's just easier that way. Yeah, it's easier that way. I do actually. I think it's over there. I do actually have the Visa mount, but I found that if I bump the table, because I've got a monitor there and a monitor there, and then I've got one in landscape there and one in portrait there. And I found with the Visa mounts, if I bump the table, they just wobble for like 15 minutes. So,
or it might land on you, crush you, and you die.
Yeah, well, that's always a possibility too. So
what a way to go!
I went this way, and it's just a lot easier and cheaper. But yeah, no, I think my next upgrade is to go at least like a 20, if not a 32, at least like a 28 or a 30, a couple of those, I think. Because real estate, it's surprising when you're like, even streaming is a classic example, as you know. Like, I have OBS on one screen, I've got my chat windows on another screen, I've got you on another screen, I've got another screen with my show notes on it and my stories and whatever. So really, if I had another caller, I'd need another screen, and then I want to put the stuff, my show notes on my portrait screen, so my landscape screen can be captured for the... So like, it's very, very easy to use 6 or 8 screens.
So you get your Samsung tab and you just stick it up the top there with your notes on and stuff.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. I actually had a mount I had mounted on the wall here. I had my tablet sitting on the wall, and I actually had the chats on that.
Oh, right. That's a way to do it.
At one point. And yeah, so it's just the problem with doing it that way, it's okay to have the chats there monitoring them, but you can't reply because you can't sort of go... So yeah, no, it's one of those wormholes. Once you start down the rabbit hole, once you start down the rabbit hole, you very easily go further and further, and
so you got screens everywhere.
I could imagine, like, if I turn my table that way instead of the way it is, I'd be against a wall there, and I could very easily imagine having two like 50-inch.
Just sticking on there.
Two big 50-inch TV screens sitting there doing the work for me.
I've got a 40-inch TV over there, but I'm not going to plug it into this.
I used to have...
I couldn't look. What's that? Hang on. I'll get out my binoculars.
Well, I got an old school Pioneer plasma that I still have. It's sitting in the shed because it uses way too much power. But I had that as a monitor, and other than the fact that you got a suntan from sitting this close to it...
It's good in winter, right?
It was actually a really, like, a 150-inch took up the same space as my 424s.
Yeah.
And it was perfectly fine for actually doing multi-window stuff like I am now. But then I had the problem, if I played a game on it, suddenly the game was this big, and I'm looking like I'm trying to play a game, and I'm actually looking around like this, trying to figure out what I'm looking at. So
Where's that creeper?
So it actually had the opposite problem of being too big.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And getting a couple of air conditioners installed at Sparrow Fart tomorrow. Why did tech tradies like to be up so early?
Before it gets hot. Well, he'll probably be there all day. He's not exactly doing a standard install.
He said he should be probably not long after lunch, maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
And that's like 5 or 6 hours. That's a pretty decent day's work.
So I'll get a 3.5 kilowatt in the bedroom here above the bed, and then one in my daughter's room, 2.5 kilowatt. That should be quite good. And then later on, they have the solar installer electrician had to send away my request for solar stuff to Energy Australia to see if they'll let me go ahead with having it installed. Is that some requirement they have?
That's weird.
He also said, I've got 5.5 kilowatts on there now. I can get 6.6 to go with it to slightly overdrive the inverter, which is apparently good because in winter you don't get so much sun.
Yeah.
But he said anything more than that, and they won't let you export it. They'll cut you off.
They'll export. Yeah. Well, in Queensland, you can produce as much as you want, but they unless you go 3-phase power and get a 400-volt system in, you're on a 5 kilowatt per day feed-in tariff. But the thing is, you can produce 10 kilowatts, and you can
they'll
use
take
5.
it.
Well, no, they won't. They won't. No, well, per hour, yes, they'll take it. But no, they won't here. They actually, it won't export. It will literally only export 5 kilowatt hours. Like it won't go any more on the export side. But you could be producing 8 or 9 or 10 and using the difference. So you're using the power that you're producing above what you're exporting.
Yeah.
So I'm always exporting my 5 constantly because I'm always producing more than that and running the household. Even with the aircon on, I'm still exporting my 5. Yep. So yeah, it's that's the downside to having a smart meter is it can cap the amount you export. The upside to having the smart meter is the amount that you export is much more accurately monitored. If you have a normal meter,
I don't have a smart meter.
You don't get the tariff block, but you'll lose a lot in revenue because they don't read backwards. So it doesn't read a lot of your import stuff. It relies on what the inverter says it's putting in, which can vary depending on how it's set up. So
I asked for a smart meter and Energy Australia came to install it and they said, oh, can't do that. We need you to get another thing installed into your fuse box before we can put in a smart meter. So you need a level 2 technician to come and install. I don't remember what it was, but he was here and he said, no, we can't put this smart meter in there. Not possible.
I think he just didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Same as those guys who just decided it was completely 100% impossible to install gas at my place. They didn't want to do it.
They didn't want to do it.
What is it with my place?
You've got really, really bad tradies in your place.
Tell me what. I'm on to my 6th guy to do the gardening and mowing.
Yeah. Oh, really?
They just don't turn up, or they say I'll be here next week, and a week later I haven't heard from them, so I get someone else. They're like, oh, it's coming tomorrow. It's like, well, I don't know that, do I? You haven't told me.
Yeah.
Another one's like, I'll come around and give you a quote at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right, 9 o'clock I'm there. 9:30 I ring up his office. Where is he? Oh, we don't know. 10 o'clock he rings up and goes, I just drove past and decided I'm going to give the quote based on that instead of talking to you about it at your place so you can show me where everything is. I'm like, you said 9. This is not 9. This is 10. What? You're supposed to be here at 9. Well, I'm here now and I'm giving you the quote. I'm like,
not interested.
That's not how it works.
No.
If you said you're going to be here at 9 and I'm expecting you at 9, what's going to happen when you're going to mow the lawn? You're going to say, I'll be there on Tuesday, and you turn up a week next Wednesday or whatever and say, well, I'm here.
Yeah.
I need somebody reliable.
You've got horrible you've got really bad tradies.
It's ridiculous.
All the tradies around here go far above and beyond just about all the time. Like, they almost always do way more than they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
And they charge you. They don't charge you for it most of the time.
Not here. Can't be done. I'm in the impossible zone. Nothing can be done here by a tradie.
I got the opposite going on. And they're like, oh, well, I'm here. Do you want me to do that and that? And said, I won't charge you for it. I'm just here. It'll be easy to do it now. And it's like, okay.
Nice.
So, oh, man. I don't know.
What's this? What's this going across here?
I don't know. I'm not in the mood.
Down there. Some Patreon stuff.
Yeah, we've got Patreon and we've got Kofi and we've got... I know it's coffee, but leave me alone because there's a wrestler whose name's Kofi Kingston. That's how he spells it, so that's why I'm going to say it. We've got PayPal and we've got those sort of things, so give us money, dang it.
Yeah.
we do this for you people. Who do you think you are? Freeloaders. No,
let's get into some news.
It does help, guys. We do honestly. It means a lot to us for the people who are supporting us. It really helps us out. And we actually figured out the other day the last upgrade Glenn did to his computer was a graphics card 6 years ago.
Wow.
So
was it Visa Local Bus, or did he get the PCI yet?
So his computer, we can't figure out how his computer is. But the last upgrade was 6 years ago.
Jeez, I've had 2 since then.
And that was only like a 2 gig, 3050 or something. Like it wasn't. It wasn't it was an old card then.
It's a Voodoo. He just upgraded Voodoo 3D. Now he can play 3D Doom, right?
Turbo 3D.
Yeah.
What was it?
Press
Diamond.
that turbo button.
The diamond Visa card with push-in memory upgrades.
Yeah.
They were great.
Let's do some news.
Oh, okay.
Google will not build or use alternate tools to track web browsing traffic once it begins phasing out existing technology from its Chrome browser next year, in a move that will reshape how online advertising works. Google first announced it would get rid of third-party cookies, which for decades have been enabled online ads, early last year to meet growing data privacy standards in Europe and the United States. Privacy activists for years have criticized tech companies, including Google, for using cookies to gather web browsing records across websites they don't own, enabling them to develop profiles on users' interests to serve personalized ads. Now Google is pledging it will not use other technology to replace the cookie or build features inside Chrome to allow itself access to that data, though it continues to test ways for businesses to target ads to large groups of anonymous users with common interests. Keeping the internet open and accessible for everyone requires all of us to do more to protect privacy, and that means an end to not only third-party cookies, but also technology used for tracking individual people as they browse the web, Google said.
Well, it's funny because Brave, who 2 years ago publicly launched their browser.
How many people are talking about Brave all the time? I can't watch any streams on the internet or anything. They're like, yeah, I use Brave all the time. I've only got Internet Explorer or Edge or whatever in the background because I can square it the exact thing to capture for my Twitch stream. But other than that, I use Brave everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, and now they're just doing one better. They've introducing Brave Search, which has opened a wait list and will launch in the first half of this year. It won't track or profile people who use it. Brave already has a default anonymous user model, which has no data collection at all. He says this will continue with the search engine. No IP addresses will be collected, and the company is exploring how it can create both paid and ad-free search engines, and one that comes with ads. But building a search engine isn't straightforward. They say Brave isn't starting its search engine or index from scratch and won't be using indexes from Bing it is starting its search engine from scratch and won't be using other indexes from Bing or other tech firms. They've purchased Tailcat, an offshoot of German search engine Clicks, which was owned by Herbert Burda Media and closed down last year. The purchase includes an index of the web that's been created by Tailcat and the technology that powers it. They say that some users will be given the ability to opt in to anonymous data collection to help fine-tune the search results. What Tailcat does is it looks at the query and log click. It looks at and wow, I just can't, people. Or word. What it does is it looks at a query log and a click log anonymously, he says. This is allowed to build an index, which Tailcat has done and already did at Click, and it's getting bigger. He admits the index will not be anywhere near as deep as Google, but the search results, your first two or three pages, your first 2 or 3 pages are probably going to be similar on the major search. I mean, yeah.
There are more pages than one on Google. Does anyone go to page 2?
No, I often go to 3 or 4 to actually find the stuff I want. I'll often skip the first couple of pages because I know it's going to be exactly not what I want.
Sponsored ads.
Yeah, but yeah, so basically it's so not only now, it's going to be like DuckDuckGo, I'd imagine, where it's going to be, except the difference is it'll be integrated into the browser. So
Nice.
I would think they would do well to somewhat partner up with DuckDuckGo. I think it would.
And Tim Berners-Lee, because he wants all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and he's doing his pod thing, which is a sort of a reboot of the internet.
On the internet.
Yeah, it's an internet without using the internet. But I mean, I have used Brave. I just can't use it daily yet. It's still just not
quite there.
It's like Canary for Chrome. I use it as my primary browser because most of the time it's faster and better than the standard Chrome. Yep. But when it has a hissy fit, it really has a hissy fit. And Brave's exactly the same. Like 99% of the time it works flawlessly and it's really good. But when it decides it doesn't want to work, it just doesn't want to work. So it's probably going to be... I'm probably going to give it till the end of the year because they're going to be launching this. So obviously they're going to be bumping up both their technologies somewhat simultaneously. So probably by the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if I switch over completely to Brave.
I might give it a go.
For the most
I
part.
use it on my mobile phone, just not on the desktop much yet.
I use it on the... I use it a lot on our media center.
Yep.
Other than stuff like YouTube, that there's obviously a link to your Google account, so you got your favorites and you got all that sort of stuff pre-existing from when you set it up. But for just general browsing and stuff, I use it on the media center. It's a lot lighter because they're only little 1.8 to 1.9 gig processor quad cores, so they're not real powerful.
Yep.
But they seem to work quite well on that. But once again, if they have a hissy fit, they just don't want to know about it.
Woolworths has called time on a trial of electronic-only payments at small number of its Metro stores, saying it would accept cash again at the stores as early as Wednesday. The cashless payments trial started in July last year at 11 Metro stores in Sydney and Melbourne. Locations on the retailer had already received few cash payments. The grocery retailer expanded the trial to cover 14 stores with the addition of Brisbane, and came at a time of heightened concern over cash handling during the COVID-19 pandemic and broad encouragement of contactless payments. But the conversion of stores to all electronic payments and prohibition of cash payments led to concerns about the exclusion of people without cards, as well as over the data being collected about purchasing habits. The trial was also frequently criticised in social media forums, and Woolworths Metro General Manager Justin Nolan said the retailer hadn't fully appreciated the impact of making some of its stores cashless. We want Woolworths to be a place where everyone feels welcome, no matter who they are or how they shop with us. Become clear to us that not all customers have felt this way when shopping in our Woolworths Metro stores trialling card-only payments. While almost all Metro customers choose to pay with cards, cash remains incredibly important to those who don't, for a whole range of reasons we don't fully appreciate. Based on the feedback from our customers, we can see we've moved ahead of current community expectations on cash and will be ending the trial. It's understood the majority of stores participating in cashless trial will have either already started accepting cash payments again or will do so by now.
I love the way they skimmed over the actual real details of that story.
Yeah.
Subtle. Woolworths, in conjunction with the federal government, were doing the trial to see if it was possible. The federal government's been pushing for a cashless society for at least 12 months, 2 years now, and they're using COVID as a really good excuse to pass it through the lower house. The day that the bill got rejected in the lower house about banning cash, Woolworths ended their trial.
Oh,
yeah.
It's a coincidence. Don't worry about it.
I mean,
fine.
They're completely unrelated and there's no way we're linked to each other at all. But yeah, so basically that's what happened. They and amongst all the crap that was going on, they were trying to push this bill through so that they ban cash and we aim for a cashless society, which basically means that the government then controls, or the government and the banks control all your assets because there is no cash. Yep. And that was thankfully blocked by the smarter people in the lower house, and it didn't get through with enough votes. Right. Not to say they won't try again.
No, definitely.
But at least
give it a go one day.
At least this time it got defeated. So, because currently the legislation stands that the only valid form of currency that must be accepted by a commercial organisation is cash, or it's technically coin, but cash. They're not required to accept anything else, but they have to accept cash. And if they don't, that means the item must either be removed from sale or it must be offered for free.
Right.
That is the only exception to that. And when Woolworths was challenged, they miraculously accepted cash in the cashless stores.
You can take it or I'm walking out.
Yeah, that's literally exactly how it goes. I have offered you cash. You have declined payment. Therefore, the item is classified as free. I shall take it. Thank you. Oh, no. Well, we actually will take cash. We just don't really want to.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, funny that.
And the truth comes out.
So, speaking of weird and odd purchasing habits. PlayStation Store. Now, other than you, because you listen to the exception to the rule, I don't know anybody who has purchased anything other than games or game-related content on a PlayStation. But anyway, have you ever bought a movie or TV show through the PlayStation Store? As a result, me neither, says the article, which is like literally everybody who's listening to this except the person who's sitting on that screen there. As a result, Sony announced today it will remove them starting. Wow, I tell you what. Sony announced today it will remove them starting August 31st. We've seen tremendous growth from PlayStation fans using subscription-based and ad-based entertainment streaming services on our consoles, Sony wrote. With the shift in customer behaviour, we have decided to no longer offer movies and TV purchases and rentals through the PlayStation Store. As a multimedia company producing movies and TV alongside music and games, it made sense for Sony to sell it all through various iterations of the PlayStation's digital storefront. In theory, at least. In practice, it seemed like console owners were mostly just interested in buying games, especially in following the rise of Netflix and Amazon Prime. True, but did not the PlayStation also have apps like Amazon and stuff on it?
Yeah.
So
Disney Plus and
you've already got an
Netflix.
Amazon account that you can watch on all your devices, so you go to your PlayStation to buy a movie.
Yep.
And they wonder why people weren't using this service. And as you said, you have done, but it's a very rare use case even for you to do it. There's not exactly standard run-of-the-mill
No, it
practice.
might have been like 2 or 3 things that I couldn't get on any other platform when they had it. I wanted to watch, a few weeks ago, I wanted to watch Deadpool 1, which I didn't have. I had Deadpool 2, but Deadpool 1 isn't on anywhere that I could stream it. So the only place I found it was there. I even often tried the Google movie store to see if something's there, but couldn't find it anywhere. So I think I ended up buying that one.
Yeah, you should have let me know. I could have told you where to buy it. But yeah, that's. Yes, there's always going to be oddball.
Oh, sorry, Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
No, Guardians. There's always going to be oddball exceptions to that rule. But yeah, look, it doesn't make sense that you're allowing, Amazon Prime and you're allowing Netflix and you're allowing pick a Disney and
Stan.
whatever Stan and probably iTunes or whatever on there as well. Or Google Play Store.
Yeah, they've got Apple on there now.
The Google movies is probably on there too, And then they go, well, nobody's buying our content. So, well, they've just purchased it through a different provider. They're not buying it directly from you because if I buy it on my PlayStation, I can only watch it on my PlayStation. If I buy it on my Netflix account that has multiple devices attached to it, I can watch it anywhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
They don't get that, do they?
No, it's such just a weird... And just another example of a record label, because let's face it, effectively, that's what Sony is. At the end of the day, they're still relying... Their mindset is that their movie and music franchise is still more profitable than any other part of their division that they have. Which is not true, but they think it is. And that's such an old school mindset. And this is why I think it was in the last... I have to try and find those stats somewhere, but I remember reading, I think it's in the last 2 years, more record labels have closed down than combined ever.
Yeah.
They're just far.
Don't fight against the change. Embrace it.
And the irony of that is, in the last 12 months, more records have been produced than have been produced in the last 20 years. So records are coming back. But yeah, it's you talk to a lot of independent artists now, and they won't sign with labels. They'll stay independent, and OK Go is a classic example of this, or Home Free is another example of this, Pentatonics. And what they'll do is they will release their content, they'll produce their content like they normally would. They'll produce their CDs, their DVDs, whatever, like they normally would. But then they'll put their content on YouTube and on media platforms, and they'll probably, they're going to get ad revenue from it. But the exposure that they're getting from
Much
that
better.
then allows the people to either sign up to their Patreon or to buy their merchandise or to buy their CD. So, and because they're not going through a label, they're being independent. Instead of getting 3 cents from a DVD sale, out of the $30 DVD, they were getting 3 cents traditionally. That's how much the actual artist got. So if you've got 5 people in a band, you get 3 cents per album, not per person. You get 3 cents per album to divide between 5 people. So now they're probably getting, let's say that same DVD costs, I'm throwing a figure out there, let's say it costs $3 to make a DVD that's selling for $30. Let's add some shipping and some tax and whatever else to that. So let's say it's $5. So they're effectively getting $25 out of their $30 record that they were getting 3 cents for. So they've only got to turn over, what's that, 0.01% of what they were turning over to make more money, or the same, if not more money than they were before.
Yeah.
So let's say they sold 1 million albums before. At 3 cents, they got $300,000 out of it. No, at 3 cents, they would have got $30,000 out of it. Whereas now, if they sell 10,000 albums at at $30 each, they're getting 300,000 out of it. So it's the labels can't understand this.
Yeah.
And they're the ones screaming bloody murder that they're being
Why
hard done
don't you
by.
want to give us all your money anymore?
Yeah, how come we
You
can't
do
sign
all the
people?
hard work. All we do is press a button and send it down the line.
Yeah, and this is where, like, people who do, X Factor and The Voice and all that sort of stuff, they get roped into like a 3-record deal. But what they'll do is they'll pump out 3 records in like 3 months. Or they have whatever their contract is. Like, they might have a 2-year contract with 3 records or 3 records, and then with a sign extension at the end of that. What they'll do is they'll pump out their 3 records as quick as they can, do a couple of tours, a couple of media bits here and there, a couple of interviews and whatever. For the next 12 months, just hide in isolation and go, I'm releasing a special album, and with 1 month to go, they release an album with 4 songs on it and go, here's your compilation album.
Yep.
And then they never re-sign with that label, and the label can't figure out why.
I think they're kind of like banks and other big businesses in that years ago, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 years ago, it'd be like, please come to our label. We'll do anything. We'll give you a ton of money. Now it's like, we are the big label. We're in control of everything. We might let you on our platform and give you a tiny little bit, but you won't get anywhere else. So you better take what you can get, which is like a pittance.
And a lot of, I use OK Go as an example because they're one of the first bands that I'm aware of that bucked the trend. They had, I think it was a $30 million deal over 5 years or something with, I want to say it was Virgin or Sony. It's one of the bigger labels anyway.
Yep.
And 12 months in, this is about when YouTube started getting semi-popular. About 12 months in, they went, well, hang on. This doesn't make any sense. We just put our video, or you guys put our video up on YouTube, which is part of the deal.
Yep.
And that video got 150 million views in a month. And they sat down and they worked out the revenue on that. And they're like, so we've got a 5-record deal over 5, or a 10-record deal over 5 years. So that means you have access to, let's say there's 10 songs on things. So you've got access to 50 of our songs or 60 of our songs or whatever you've got over that period of time. Each one of those capable of 10 plus million views on YouTube.
Yep.
And we're getting $5 million out of the deal? Now, hang on, that doesn't make sense. You're getting $5 million per song out of the deal. So they got a team of lawyers together and they broke contract with this record label through the courts and went independent and never looked back, and that was the first sort of transition to this thing happening. There's been other cases of it, but it made people, didn't make the record labels realise, but it made the artists realise that becoming independent is actually not a bad thing anymore.
Yeah, best thing you can do.
You don't need a label behind you.
Same for books and stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
that's
go straight to Amazon Kindle Publishing or something.
So many stories. Like, Mike Rowe, who did Dirty Jobs and stuff like that. His mum wrote a book
All right.
about her and Mike and the husband. Like, there's just a family. Oh, actually, she's done two. One was like a semi-biography, and one was fiction. I'll have to go back on his Facebook page and look, but I know that her first novel that she bought out, her first fiction one, sold because he is on social media. He said, "Oh, my mum's writing a book. If you're interested, look it up here." And they went to Amazon, and they, physical hard copies sold the entire first run out in like 6 hours. And
Nice.
they've done like 20 runs of this book because every time they do a run of it, it just keeps selling out. And he's like, okay, you said, yes, I'm probably got the advantage, but I'm slightly more, prolific social media wise than the average person. But he said, it's not to say the average person can't do exactly the same thing. Like, my mum just wrote this book, and I only mentioned it once or twice, and, they're making record sales,
Yeah.
So it once again proved the point that, you get the word out there.
You don't need all the middlemen anymore.
You really don't. And I noticed Neil Stevenson. He promotes all his stuff on Facebook. He doesn't have a publisher. Well, at least he doesn't have a contracted publisher. Like in the old days, you contracted to write X amount of books. He has a publisher who publishes the book and does all the footwork, but he's not contracted to them. He can pick and choose whoever he wants. But he does most of his promoting on Facebook. You're always seeing, well, me because I follow him, but you're always seeing snippets of the next book he's releasing.
Yeah.
You're like, damn it, stop it. I've already
Gonna have to get another one.
I've already taken out one mortgage to buy you books. I don't know. Buy the rest of them. So, but no, it's, I know it's a bit of a rant, but it's just interesting the way things are developing and the way structures of businesses and traditional concepts are completely being thrown on their, especially in the last 2 years where people, both businesses and people, have realised that, well, actually I don't need to drive into work every day. I can do 90% of this. And this doesn't apply to labourers and retailers, but the average office worker and the average, I don't want to downplay saying the average office worker, but, most people who work in an office or people who work behind a counter or work behind a desk or work in an office have discovered that they don't necessarily need to go into work every day. And I was actually
I've been working from home for 6 years.
Yeah. I was actually talking to a lady who came in the other day, and I have to go into work every day. I have a retail store that requires my presence there to fit the batteries and to sell, as well as selling the products. There's only so much you can sell online. There's a lot of stuff you can't ship, and there's stuff that you physically need to do. Yep. But I was talking to a lady the other day, and she's gone from working. She used to live in west of Ipswich, which is west of where I am. Makes it a 40-minute trip into Ipswich, and she used to work in Brisbane, which is another 40-minute trip. So she used to drive 80 minutes a day each way, so 160 minutes, so 3 hours effectively, assuming you don't get stuck in traffic.
Yep.
She's on the road. She's minimum 3 hours a day on the road, so she'd be getting up at 6, driving into work, getting home at 6 or 7.
Yep.
But she's since discovered, since she started working from home, she can do everything she was doing in her office in 2 full days at home. So she works Mondays and Wednesdays for that employer. Yep. She now works Tuesdays for another guy, Thursdays for another guy, and Friday for another guy.
Yes.
So she now has, in a 5-day week, she's working for 4 different employers, and her income stream is there to reflect that.
Yep.
And yet she's working less, spending less because she's not driving and paying for fuel. She's eating better because she's eating home meals instead of takeaway all the time, and she's spending more time with her kids and her family. So,
win-win everywhere.
There's no downside to this, So,
PayPal is said to be in the process of buying Curve, a technology firm that powers the secure storage of cryptocurrency, according to sources familiar with it. Israeli news outlet Calculist reported on Tuesday that Curve was being sold for between 200 million and 300 million without naming the buyer. PayPal is buying Curve for 500 million, a source from within the digital asset custody space said on Monday. From what we're hearing, I'm pretty sure it's true. Several people in the cryptocurrency space have said PayPal, which made an entrance there last year, turned its attention to Curve after talks to buy crypto custody and trading firm BitGo fell through last year. PayPal offered $750 million in cash for BitGo, two sources say. PayPal did not return requests for comment about that, and Curve declined to comment. PayPal has made some great acquisitions in the past, such as Venmo, and they want to own something in crypto. Curve has raised over $30 million to date, including $23 million funding round in July. PayPal partnered with New York regulated Paxos to offer direct purchases of cryptocurrency for its millions of US users. And the payments giant said that last month they'll be bringing crypto service to the UK very soon. And keeping on that track, Google Finance, a data site maintained by the tech giant, now has dedicated crypto field and has prominent placement too. Right at the top of the page where users can compare markets, crypto is listed among the 5 default markets, which also includes US, Europe, Asia, and currencies. For some, like the Documenting Bitcoin Twitter account that surfaced the new feature, this appears to be a signal of crypto's growing mainstream presence. Bitcoin has surged to ever new heights this year, propelled primarily by institutional adoption of the asset. From MassMutual to MicroStrategy, Bitcoin is increasingly a part of the corporate world. This sets it apart from the bull market of 2017, which was primarily driven by retail investors. According to Google Trends, searches for Bitcoin the past several months have yet to meet the frenzied searching seen 3 years ago. Significantly more people are searching for crypto rather than Google Finance, for what it's worth. Still, crypto is becoming part of the financial firmament. At the moment, it appears Google Finance only tracks a limited number of cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash are displayed by default when clicking the crypto tab.
Mm-hmm. I'm literally just looking at it now. You'd be pleased to know that Bitcoin, everything's down.
Yep.
Bitcoin's down 1.5%, Ethereum's down 0.5%, Litecoin's down 1.3%, and Bitcoin Cash is down 0.8%.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I just realised that was a thing they did. That's actually, I mean, that's not surprising they got into it. What has surprised me about your previous story, though, is PayPal has taken so long to get into crypto. It's literally the exact thing that PayPal would be perfect for. And it's taken them 5+ years to get active in. I mean, the first couple of years, they banned purchasing crypto with PayPal.
Yeah.
So, you know,
they should have jumped on it.
That should be their default payment option.
And Goldman Sachs has restarted its cryptocurrency trading desk and will begin dealing Bitcoin futures and non-deliverable forwards for clients from next week. So even Goldman Sachs is getting into the Bitcoin crypto stuff.
Makes sense. I mean, you got to think that they're a very big market influencer, though. So that's not surprising that's a thing. I mean, it's kind of like saying, you know, you look
it's
at
going to
the
happen.
Dow Jones or, you know, NASDAQ, stuff like that. Like, I don't think it's going to be too long before crypto starts affecting them either, because really they're all based on, well, from what my basic understanding of the stock market is, they're based on the way the stock market trades effectively. If things are looking up in general, they'll go up, and if things are coming down in general, they'll go down. If crypto becomes a bigger part of this way this is trading, it wouldn't surprise me if they're going to have to start being influenced by that at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, I'm not by no means to take any sort of financial advice from me at all. I mean, this is a guy who goes to Macca's to buy a 30-cent cone and spends $47. So don't don't take financial advice at all from me. But it's just
it's $3 in petrol to get the 30-cent cone while you're there.
Yeah, that's right. I'll save. I won't spend the $6 on delivery. I'll spend $12 on fuel to go and pick it up.
Yeah, that's the smart thinking.
I saw that $6. I know what they. But yeah, no, it's kind of surprising that it, for the way I understand it anyway, that crypto's going to start having more of an effect on stock markets, because I mean, if the money's coming out, if the money's going into crypto, it's got to be coming from somewhere. So inherently, if you're pulling stock and bonds out of the stock market and you're pulling shares out of the stock market to pay for the crypto, well, it's going to affect. You're going to have a drop in one, but you're going to have an increase in another. The only way you're going to know that is if you start monitoring, both at the same time. I think.
Sound advice.
it's
Maybe.
It's sound. There's a lot of sound there. Oh, excuse me. There's the damn bloody cough that I just can't. One of those things I got rid of 99% of it. Just can't get that last bit.
You'll be hanging on.
So speaking of small stock markets, I guess. Well, there's people on the stock market, so there you go. 40% of Americans don't trust Facebook and TikTok. And Google appears to be winning the trust wars, according to a survey from SEO Clarity. I know, right? So SEO Clarity, who this is their job and they do surveys all the time and they obviously know what they're talking about, surveyed 1,000 Americans. And from that, they have determined that the majority of US citizens think social media companies need more regulation. The findings are notable due to how tech companies are stacking up on trust. Google tops Amazon, Microsoft and Apple on the trustworthy scores. Meanwhile, Facebook and TikTok were the most distrusted. SEO Clarity also found the trial that half of Americans, because remember that 1,000 that they tested, but half of all Americans think that websites can control where they land in Google searches.
Uh-huh. That's some pretty smart thinking right there.
There is so much wrong with this article. But what's interesting is that, well, I actually found it incredibly interesting that, I guess the media is to blame for this. Oops, drop my mic. Not in a good way. They're not like to drop the mic, I'm going home. But okay, I'm not surprised that Facebook and TikTok, with all the publicity that's been going on lately, is not coming out very well on publicity for security. But I'm surprised that they rate Google. Yeah. I mean, not that I'm saying that Apple and Microsoft are more trustworthy than Google, but I'm surprised they rate. Honestly, I would have thought Apple would have come out on top of that because Apple's probably.
They fight for privacy from other companies.
Publicly they do. Yeah, exactly.
From other companies.
Yeah, Apple's probably the most private company, but you know, it's weird. And then they say the one thing. So it doesn't surprise me, but I've never really thought about is that how many people think that the websites control where they land on a search.
Yep.
It makes perfect sense because unless you understand the concept of how SEO works and how paid rankings work and how crawling works and how organic SEO works, you're not going to understand how that works. I had never sort of associated the general public
thinking that way.
Thinking that when you search for, you search for something, like you search for, say, hamburgers, McDonald's and Hungry Jack's are usually going to come up on top. Two reasons. One is they pay for their search results and they have the paid ads. But also because most people search or go to, they search for McDonald's or hamburgers or end up clicking on a McDonald's link. So the algorithm just associates hamburgers and McDonald's.
Yep.
So they're going to rank higher than your mum and pop hamburger shop on the corner. And to me, I know how that works. So I understand SEO, but it's never occurred to me. And this is probably a failure on my behalf. But it's never occurred to me that people don't understand that. They think that because McDonald's is a bigger company, they're just going to automatically show a better result. They're going to want, hey, we want number one, and the mum and pop one, they're like, oh, we don't really care about search results,
Yeah.
And put us down the bottom somewhere. So, yeah, I it's such a small article, but it really got me thinking. It's I don't necessarily agree with the rest of the thing, but you can't get a concept of general consensus with 1,000 surveys. No. You can't.
It's nobody.
Unless there's only 10,000 people that live on an island somewhere and you surveyed 1,000 of them, then maybe. But when it's less than 0.0000001% of the population, you can't get a survey result like that. But yeah, no, that was just something I found interesting.
Good note to end on.
One thing just quickly too, which I've just seen pop up here. Now we're talking, I think it was last week or the week before. We're talking about Parler sort of becoming popular. Well, Apple and Google are under pressure and receive complaints from the platform Parler, social media platform favoured by the right-wing extremes, from their app store. BuzzFeed has since broken news that Apple has served notice to Parler's executive to implement full moderation plan within 24 hours or risk being taken off the app store. Google's issued a similar ultimatum and has suspended Parler from its app store until it implements moderation. So Parler's in a lot of trouble, which is not surprising, but it's funny that everybody all of a sudden has ganged up on it. They've kind of had nothing at all happen for a while, and then all of a sudden...
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, everybody's like, nah, we're done now. Elections are finished. Be quiet now.
Yeah. Speaking of being done, thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Heads show, broadcast weekly. We can be found at facebook.com/Aussie Tech Heads, twitter.com/Aussie Tech Heads, and youtube.com/Aussie Tech Heads. And now also at patreon.com/Aussie Tech Heads. Sign up for $4 a month or more. See the site for details. We have an extra show, so check it out if you are a member of Patreon. And coffee.com, ko-fi.com/Aussie Tech Heads. Make a one-off donation of any size. Email us, Glenn, Will and Warlock at aussietechheads.com.au. You can hear Aussie Tech Heads on Aussie Tech Radio, 24/7 back-to-back play of some of the best tech-related shows from around Australia and New Zealand. New shows added each Friday. See you then.
Thanks, guys. Bye.